Sports Night Niagara is brought to you by Mount St. Mary's Hospital and Health Center, Wendy's Old Fashioned Hamburgers, Total Tan, Crown Plaza, Niagara Falls, Direct Air and Tours, Tim Hortons, Pepsi, New Era, and PurpleEagles.com.
Good evening and welcome to Sports Night Niagara. I'm your host, Jeremy White. We have a big show today. We have a lot of college basketball on the docket with assistant men's basketball coach Phil Martelli Jr. But I wanted to make a quick note first. We've got a weekend where the Purple Eagles are at home on the rink, and Alabama Huntsville is in this weekend at Dwyer Arena for 3 games. They have 3 because they had to reschedule one of those games because of the tragedy on the campus of Alabama Huntsville. So this weekend, as you head to Dwyer Arena, be sure to pick up one of the ribbons as Niagara is supporting Alabama Huntsville and what they're going through right now. There'll be purple and blue ribbons. So something to check out this weekend at Dwyer Arena as a big UAH NU matchup in the CHA as they continue to fight for positioning heading for the CHA tournament, which of course will be at Dwyer Arena as well. So quick hockey note there. On to basketball. We have assistant men's basketball coach Phil Martelli Jr. Thanks for taking some time. And I'm glad you have time because we've got a lot of time to spend with you. That's the good news. First off, the men's basketball team, you know, we talked about it a couple weeks ago on the show. February seems to be the time when you guys really start to get humming, and here we are. It's February, and 5 out of 6 wins, and things seem to be going in the right direction.
Yeah, a lot of people have made note of that, and it is something that we obviously have made note of in the locker room, and something in my 4 years we've kind of pushed every year and going into that month that this is our time. This is the time. It's now. And, you know, what's great about our guys is they start to see, all right, the end is near, but we determine when that end will be. You know, so if we're playing well now and we can play well in March, we can push it back a day, push it back a day, push it back a day. You know, one thing that I always like to think is we try to talk to them and tell them, be selfish now down the stretch, because we want you to be selfish and say, we want one more day of practice. We want one more game. And that's how you have to approach the postseason.
Have you had a team that you were on or a team that you coached where you did peak too early, where it seemed like at the start of the season it was gangbusters, and then for whatever reason you couldn't get it back? Because right now, if you're on your way to your peak, that seems to be the right thing to do.
Yeah, you know, there's no question that happens to a lot of teams, and I've played on teams and coached teams where you kind of hit your stride in late January, and you think, all right, this is great, we're going to roll through, and then all of a sudden in February, maybe some injuries creep in, somebody goes into a little bit of a slump, but then all of a sudden you get into the tournament time where it really counts, and now you're not quite where you were. But the nice thing about this team is it seems like we're headed in the right direction at the right time.
And nothing more indicative of that than the win over Siena, which was a big win in conference at home against the team that had a very long winning streak in college basketball. Talk about what that win did for not only the team, but I mean the program. It was a huge win for the Purple Eagles.
No question. I mean, it definitely gave our guys the confidence. And we had talked about, obviously, February is our month, this is our time, all those things. And it definitely instilled that confidence in them to really know, okay, you know what, this is real. You know, it's not just talk. It's not just coach standing up there telling us this. It's not just us back in our dorm room thinking, well, is it our time? Is it not our time? It really gave them that confidence. You know, it also let some people know that all right, Niagara's here to play. You know, maybe in January there were some people that were thinking, they're going to slide. They're not, something's not quite right. You know, the sky's falling. Then all of a sudden, boom, you know, here we are with a pretty signature win to let people know, all right, we're for real, we're around, and you know, we plan on making some noise here down the stretch.
And something else that had been targeted a few weeks back would be a top 6 spot heading into the conference tournament, because with that top 6 spot you get a first-round bye, and as it stands right now, you're in position. So how important is it to hang on to that?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, we're not thinking so much about that going into this weekend with Manhattan and Fairfield, but going and winning those games and keeping that magic, keeping that mojo, I guess you could say, that we have going, you know, right now, and trying to keep that going and push forward and, you know, win these 2 games and then just have that momentum going into the conference tournament.
There's also a big win out of conference against UW-Milwaukee, the Panthers, right?
The Panthers,
The
yeah.
Panthers, I got that. I remember that. What's it like not only to win games in your conference, because those are teams you're familiar with, but if you can go on the road and beat a team like that, that's just got to be another feather in your cap.
Yeah, what was interesting about that, and I didn't even realize it until Coach Mihalik said it one of the days of practice last week, Wednesday or Thursday. He brought the guys together and he said, last year in the bracket buster, Siena played in Northern Iowa, who's in the Missouri Valley, and Niagara played Illinois State, who's in the Missouri Valley, and we beat both of those teams. This year, Siena was playing Butler in the Horizon League, we were playing UW-Milwaukee, who's also in the Horizon League. So there was a little bit of that going into it, going, all right, this is the pride. And you go out of your conference, you step to a different place. A lot of teams in our league played people that they're somewhat familiar with. Ryder played Hofstra and different people like that. We played in a different place, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Few of us, if any of us, had ever been there. Place where they probably didn't know much about Niagara and who we were and where we're from. And the first thing that their students were kind enough to note is that we wear purple. They let us know that. So they really didn't know much about us. And I don't think people out here know much about them. And so we might not get quite the credit that we probably should for a win like that, because they're a great program, done a lot of great things there. They have great coaching staff. They have really good players. And they're in a really good league and a really tough place to play. So.
And I want to ask you, I'm not sure how much of this you guys would put on the players, but a win for the MAC over the Horizon League or over Missouri Valley, when you're talking about tournament time, it matters how good your conference is. And I wonder, before the game, after the game, during the game, coaching staff, how much do you guys talk from a MAC perspective that a win like that is not just good for Niagara, but that's good for the MAC, and then in turn, more good for Niagara?
Yeah, we talk about the pride that's established with that, and going different places and representing the league well. And not just the league, but our team and our program and our university and where we're from. Trying to represent that. One of the best quotes of all time is Michael Jordan saying that every time he went and played somewhere, he acted as if that was the first time somebody in those stands was going to see him play. So he wanted to give his best. And I think our guys have taken that in a little bit. So you know what? We're in a different place. We're in a new place. Whether it's El Paso, Texas, or it's in San Francisco or wherever we've been over the years. Of trying and going out and having people say, I saw Niagara play. That's a heck of a team. That's a heck of a program, and we take a lot of pride in that.
Assistant men's basketball coach Phil Martelli. More from you coming up. Actually, the third assistant coach we've had here on the show. We've got a feature coming up next to give you an idea of the interactions that they all have together, who does what. It's coming up next on Sports Night Niagara.